What's up, guys? Welcome to today's video where I'm going to talk to you about catching more fish on a jig this spring. So look, we're going to jump into videos like this because these are about teaching, okay? And I like to teach anything that I learn. And a lot of times I'll think about doing a video and then I'll forget about it. So what I did today is I'm out here on the lake, I'm catching some fish, and I decided to paddle back to the bank and actually get this video done and get it out there because I've actually thought of this a couple times and then inadvertently got busy and forgot to share it. So I started off fishing the day with a football jig, and this in particular is a cross-eyed jig from Z-Man, and I was fishing it with a billy goat as a trailer. I wanted to scoot along the bottom. That's what football jigs are for. I got some wood where I'm fishing. Football jigs come over wood better. And I really like this cross-eyed weed guard, except for the fact that I think it's kind of crap when it comes out of the package. So I pull it out, put a little super glue in there because I've lost a few of them. Then after that, you ain't got to worry about it. So I wish Z-Man would do a better job of gluing this thing from the get-go, but it is one of the best jigs that I've ever thrown. I really like that live rubber skirt, and just like the fact that it works really well with that Elastec. Stands up on its end. You get a lot of action even with it sitting still. But here's the epiphany. I know that's a big word for us knuckleheads, but here's the epiphany that I wanted to share with you guys. I was catching more fish swimming the jig back to the boat than I was dragging it along the bottom. So I've been playing around with this snakehead swim jig that Z-Man also makes with this boarheads trailer on it. Now, when I first start fishing it, I leave the tentacles connected and it gives me one action. But when I really want to swim it, I take it apart so that I get more action out of those legs. And that has been super effective for me, especially if I'm worming it through treetops or running it into stuff. That swim jig is a bit of a structure head and a bit of a swim jig head kind of made into one. So I've been having a lot of success with that. Again, that's the Z-Man snakehead, and I've got that boarheads trailer on there. I cut both of them down about the first two segments. Actually, on the boarheads, I cut it down to the first set of tentacles, and then on the billy goat, I cut the first two segments off as well, and that really does super well. But here's what this video is about. I was catching them on the football jig at first, but when I was swimming it back to the boat, which you should always swim a jig. Every jig is a swim jig. There are jigs made for swimming, but every jig is a swim jig. And if you're not swimming a jig back to the boat, you're wrong, because it's crawfish imitation or a brim feeding on the bottom or a bluegill feeding on the bottom imitation when it's on the bottom. But when you're swimming it back, it is a bait fish imitation. And pre-spawn, in the spawn, and out of the spawn, bluegill and brim are one of their, arch rivals. So they're going to smash them for a number of different reasons. But because we were off peak feeding time in the morning and the feeding time was going to be later in the day, I didn't want to use a power fishing presentation. And so I started throwing the jig, but I was swimming the jig back to the boat and getting a lot more bites with it moving. Now, when I started throwing the swim jig, it's a little faster, so I was having a little thinner profile, as you can see here. So I was having to reel it a little faster. So I went back to the football jig, which has got a little bit more resistance and had a little bit bigger trailer on it, so it's got a little bit more lift, and I started catching them again. But that's when the light bulb went off, and it's like, well, they're hitting a brim imitation, a bluegill imitation. They're hitting the one that has a little chartreuse in it, so they're definitely not opposed to a little color. It wasn't hurting anything. But when I swam this one a little slower, because it's got a little more resistance, my bites went up even over a swim jig. So immediately I thought, I got y'all. Let's go with a bladed, still a jig. A lot of people think of it as a chatterbait. It's still a bladed jig. It's still a jig. Everything from the blade back is a jig. So I started throwing the bladed jig, went with the billy goat to give it a little bit more lift, and that bigger tail with it when it swings back and forth keeps it in the strike zone longer. And the bites went up and up and up, both in numbers and in size. And I'm not going to waste a lot of time trying to edit this thing to show hook sets and heck yes. I want to show you guys what you should be doing. Off peak, drag a jig on the bottom. Always swim it back to the boat. As soon as you start getting more hits on the swim back than you do on the scoot, drag, stroke it on the bottom, hop and pop it, start then switching to a bladed jig or a chatterbait. And don't be afraid to throw these darker colored chatterbaits, especially when you're around brim beds or you're in an area where there's a high population of copper-nose brim and bluegill, you know, red breast, all of those fish in that brim panfish family, because those fish will really key on that. So they're going to eat a crawfish and they're going to eat those bluegill and brim everywhere in the world. And so for me, this really started to happen pretty consistently once we got up above 55, 56 degrees. Now we're in the mid 70s and it's even getting bigger. So I want you guys to think about that. Off peak, go to that football jig, scoot it and drag it. Always swim it back to the boat. As soon as you start getting better bites on the retrieve, switch to a swim jig. But if you're having to burn the swim jig so fast that you're getting less bites, then split the difference, go to a bladed jig, and I promise you guys, it'll put more fish in the boat. Hope you like these type of videos. I'm gonna get back out on the lake. I'm gonna get back out on the lake. Got a ton of content to share with you guys. Most of it I'm out on the water filming right now. Yeah, so let me know if there's other things you want to know about. Y'all do me a favor, leave a comment. Doesn't take a lot of effort on your part, means a whole lot to me, helps with the algorithm. Share this video, help me help you, help everybody catch more fish. I'm gonna get back out there and keep learning, because the only way that I can teach more is if I stay a student of the game myself. Love y'all. I am so blessed and fortunate to be able to do what I do for a living, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. And so the least I can do is give back with the stuff that I'm able to learn to help y'all catch more fish. So see y'all in the next video.